By the time the afternoon sun spilled through the cafe's tall windows, Amara Klein had already decided she would lie. Not because she wanted to deceive anyone, but because survival had taught her that the world listened more closely when you looked like you belonged. The blind date was supposed to be simple. Coffee. Polite smiles. Two strangers killing an hour in daylight. But as Amara adjusted the borrowed silk scarf around her neck and smoothed the sleeve of a blazer she'd found at a thrift store, her pulse thudded with the fear of being seen for who she really was. And beneath the table, the truth rested quietly, her worn shoes, scuffed at the toes, softened by years of walking too far for too little. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us what really matters, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Single Dad Diaries. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Amara had learned to pretend early. After her mother's illness drained their savings and her father disappeared under the weight of responsibilities he couldn't face, Amara became an expert at stretching pennies and masking exhaustion. She worked 2 jobs, one as a morning assistant at a dental clinic and another shelving books in the afternoons at a public library. Daytime was her battlefield, a constant juggle of bus schedules and silent prayers that nothing unexpected would break the fragile balance she'd built. She didn't hate her life, but she was tired of being invisible. Tired of watching people's eyes dim the moment they realized she didn't come from money or connections. The blind date came from a well-meaning coworker who believed love had a way of fixing everything. The man's name was Elias Rowan, and all Amara knew was that he was a single father, financially comfortable, and looking for something real. Comfortable was a dangerous word. It made Amara think of the way her landlord smiled too widely when she paid rent on time, of the way doctors' offices smelled like bad news, of how comfort always seemed to belong to someone else. So she said yes, and she decided she would step into a version of herself the world respected more. Elias arrived before her, sunlight catching in his dark hair as he stood near the counter, scanning the room with a calm patience that felt out of place in a city always rushing. He carried himself without hurry, without the sharp edges of someone trying to impress. When Amara approached, he noticed her smile first, then the careful way she held herself, like someone bracing against a quiet storm. What he noticed last were her shoes, and only because they told a story he recognized too well. Elias had grown up counting coins at the kitchen table while his mother tried to make dinner stretch. Success came later, hard-earned and humbling, after loss carved him into a man who valued substance over shine. His late wife had taught him that love was revealed in details people tried to hide. So when he saw the scuffed soles beneath Amara's polished exterior, something softened in him. Not judgment. Recognition. The afternoon unfolded gently. Sunlight shifted across the floor. Cups emptied and refilled. Amara spoke about travel she'd never taken, about work that sounded more glamorous than it was. Each word felt like a borrowed coat, warm but not hers. She watched Elias carefully, waiting for disappointment, for the moment his interest would fade. Instead, he listened. He listened with the kind of attention that made her chest ache, because it reminded her how long it had been since anyone truly saw her effort rather than her shortcomings. Inside, Amara battled herself. She thought of her mother resting at home, of the unpaid utility bill folded in her bag, of the library books she would shelve later that day. She wondered what would happen if she told the truth, if she admitted that her life was built on grit rather than privilege. Fear won, as it often did. She kept pretending, even as guilt tugged at her like a loose thread. Elias spoke about his son, a quiet boy who loved drawing and needed patience more than promises. He mentioned responsibility without pride, and success without boasting. Amara felt something shift. This wasn't a man dazzled by wealth. This was a man shaped by it and not defined by it. Still, the lie sat heavy between them, and she wondered how long a connection could survive on borrowed truth. When they stood to leave, the moment came uninvited. Amara's shoe caught on the edge of the rug, and she stumbled just enough for the sole to show its wear openly. Time seemed to slow. Heat rushed to her face. Shame, old and familiar, rose like a wave. She straightened quickly, murmuring apologies that felt too small for the weight she carried. She expected distance. Polite retreat. The quiet ending of something that never began. Instead, Elias simply waited. He looked at her not with pity, but with understanding that ran deep and steady. He saw the effort it took to stand tall when the ground kept shifting. He saw someone who had learned to survive with grace. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was honest. That afternoon, something unspoken changed. Amara felt it in the way she breathed easier, in the way her shoulders relaxed. She realized that the hardest part of her life wasn't the lack of money or security, it was the constant performance, the fear that being real would cost her connection. Elias didn't ask questions. He didn't expose her lie. He simply offered kindness, and in doing so, he gave her something she hadn't felt in years, permission to be herself. Over the following weeks, daylight meetings became routine. Walks through city parks. Shared lunches on benches warmed by the sun. Slowly, Amara stopped pretending. She spoke about her real job, her mother, her dreams that felt impractical but alive. Each truth felt like setting down a heavy bag she'd carried too far. Elias never flinched. His respect didn't waver. If anything, it grew. For Elias, Amara became a reminder of why he worked so hard, not for status, but for the chance to choose people for who they were. For Amara, Elias became proof that love didn't require a costume. That being seen, truly seen, was worth the risk. The story didn't end with grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It unfolded in daylight, in small moments of consistency and care. In the way Elias's son slowly trusted her presence. In the way Amara's laughter returned, lighter and freer. In the quiet realization that sometimes, the things we try hardest to hide are exactly what make us worthy of love. Before the story ends, I want to ask you something special. If you've ever felt the need to pretend, to hide your struggles just to be accepted, type, "I see myself," in the comments below. Your words might help someone else feel less alone. As the sun dipped low on another ordinary afternoon, Amara looked down at her worn shoes and smiled. They had carried her through survival, through fear, through a lie she no longer needed. And now, they were carrying her somewhere new, not because she pretended to be rich, but because someone saw her truth and stayed. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists and that second chances can come quietly in the middle of an ordinary day, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Dad Diaries. Your engagement keeps these stories alive, and together, we remind the world that real love begins when the pretending ends.